I just wanted to make sure you are right. Okay. You guys are live. Let me just check the audio.
I teach mine. I was going off of Tom's recommendation. That was the problem there. Oh, those are for sworn board members.
I do. Can somebody say something? Okay, we're good.
Okay. You ready? Good. All right, we're calling to order. Oh, I don't have my microphone on. We're calling to order this meeting tonight. We do have a quorum present. So we are going to get started and we'll have Gwen presenting shortly. First, I'm going to read the public meeting statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which time any business affecting their interest is discussed and acted upon. The provisions of this Act and Board of Education Policy 0162, the Board of Education of the Borough of Bound Brook has caused notice of this meeting to be posted in the board office and at Bound Brook High School and mailed or faxed to the Courier News Bound Brook Borough Clerk, South Bound Brook Board of Education, and any person who has requested individual notice and paid the required fee. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're moving right to swearing in our new board member. I believe that is you, Mr. Gorski.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Mr. Vollmer, would you please join the podium? Good evening, sir. As Board Secretary of the Bound Brook Board of Education, it is my privilege to swear you in as a new board member, duly elected in the November election. So please repeat after me.
Sure.
I
I, Donald Vollmer,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and
and
the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
the State of New Jersey,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments
and to the governments
established in the United States
established in the United States
and this state
and this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people.
so help me God.
So help me God.
I
I, Donald Vollmer,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
for the office of member of a Board of Education,
for the office of member of the Board of Education,
and that I am not disqualified as a voter
and that I'm not disqualified as a voter
pursuant to RS 19:4-1,
pursuant to RS 19:4-1,
nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime
nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime
or offense
or offense
listed in NJS 18A:12-1,
listed in NJS 18A:12-1,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties of that office
perform all the duties of that office
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. And I would also like to note in the minutes that Mr. Vollmer has also been provided with the board member code of ethics, which we give to all board members. Thank you, Mr. Bell.
You're up again with a roll call, please.
Mr. Bell,
Here.
Mr. Dawson. Here. Ms. Casino,
Here.
Ms. Lima,
Here.
Mr. Zupko, Ms. Moosin, Mr. Minhouse, Ms. Hyde,
Here.
Mr. Bulmer. Here. Mr. Januzzi. Mr. Board Vice President, you have a quorum present this evening.
Thank you. Okay, we are all yours, Ms. Norton. Where would you like us? How would you like to?
Well, you
Proceed.
probably can't see very well from up there, so if you want to come down and sit,
Okay,
I can do it from there. If you don't feel the need to see the slides, you want to follow along, they're in your packet as well. Stay where you are.
you can see over there. Got a good angle?
If you'd like to sit in the caution row, you are more than welcome to, or you could sit over
Can
there.
we sit?
I mean, I've learned you don't sit in the caution.
Yes.
Well, that was more just to block off traffic and so.
Then I'll be able to see you as I'm presenting, because I'm gonna have to turn, we don't have a clicker. So. if
Where would you like us?
you
You want us
sit
here?
right here?
Sure.
Great.
Whatever's best for you. You're here for, to help us out. We'll make it easy. Not that far as you want.
And it's always because your board attorney is here, so if there's any questions, he's your authority anyway. So I'm delighted to see that you are all here. Thank you for having me back. Congratulations. Welcome to board service. As I said, I think it is a really interesting, wonderful piece for your community, for you. I learned a lot as a brand new board member and as a long-serving board member. So it is a pleasure to see all of you. So this is your annual ethics training. We added disclaimer because, of course, we don't provide legal advice. That's up to your board attorney. We can provide information, and that's what this evening is about. And the Code of Ethics is required of all Board of Education members. It's something that I was always very proud of as a board member, that at one point we voluntarily ascribed to the Code of Ethics into statute. It actually came out of a delegate assembly of New Jersey School Boards Association and was a recommendation of school districts to have board members ascribe to a code of ethics. You are the largest group of volunteer public officials in the state of New Jersey who abide by the code of ethics. I often say I'm waiting for folks under the Golden Dome to come to that piece, but it hasn't happened yet. I'm not holding my breath after 30 years of being involved in education in New Jersey for that to happen. But what's important is not only that you abide by the code, but also be aware of the actual letter of the code, but also to be aware of the public perception that you are abiding by the code of ethics. It's not merely behavior that would be perhaps prohibited, but it's also giving your public confidence in that board is ensuring that it's remaining truthful and faithful to that. It holds the respect and the confidence of the people, which, as you know, is entirely appropriate and important. You want to avoid conduct that is a violation of the code itself, or it gives the public the justifiable impression that there is a violation of the code. Okay? So who does it apply to? It applies to all school officials, and it covers conflicts of interest, disclosure statements that you will be required to complete if you're a seated board member by April 30th. If you're brand new, you have 30 days to complete that. It will be sent to you if it hasn't been sent already. It includes the code of ethics as well as the mandatory training requirements that were added to the law several years back. New Jersey school board members are some of the most well-educated board members in the nation. You're required to take new board member orientation in the first year of your training. For brand new folks, that's been changed for those who were elected after April, at the April election this year. And moving forward, for everybody else who is new next November, you will only have 90 days within which to take new board member orientation. It's based on the notion that it is important for new board members to be trained early on. It remains a yearly requirement for years 2 and 3 of your first term, and you have a year to take Gov 4. Gov 4 is taken in the first year of any term subsequent to your first term. And it really is around legal updates and changes that have been made to the law. Yes,
Question, a board member who leaves and returns, but has already done the training, they,
3 years. If there's a break in service that is longer than 3 years, they would have to retake new board member orientation. It used to be 10 years. They've slimmed that down to 3. And so, yes, if you have a break in service and you come back, and we always welcome folks back who have experience, obviously, you're going to have a shorter window that you can have a break before having to retake it. And you get to see all of us again. So what could be worth on, right? So the School Ethics Act established the School Ethics Commission, the SEC. That's not the Securities Exchange Commission. I thought that's what it was. I used to teach American government at the high school level. And when somebody said the SEC, I said, oh, the Securities Exchange Commission. And then I became a board member in the state of New Jersey, and they said, no, but it's the School Ethics Commission. It outlines potential conflicts of interest that you must avoid. It talks again about those mandatory training requirements that I just recounted to you. And of course, your financial disclosure statements that are required of all school officials. I've been filling them out now for 30 years as a staff member at NJSBA. We fill those out as well as abiding by the Code of Ethics. Okay, so who's on that Code of Ethics? It's a 9-member board, 5 non-school officials, 2 superintendents, and 2 Board of Education members. They serve for 3 years, or at the pleasure of the governor, who sometimes doesn't replace them, so they continue to serve after their 3-year term. So that is an important piece. They're doing much better at having a fuller ethics commission now than they did several years back. Okay. What is their jurisdiction? What is it that they can do? They have 2 primary functions. They hear ethics complaints when an ethics complaint has been filed against a board member, and they also will issue advisory opinions. We commonly call them AOs for short. AOs are sought by board members around prospective behavior, around prospective participation in areas where they might anticipate a potential conflict. Let me give you an example. I have a board member that was elected in a district who is currently employed by a vendor that provides the food service in the district where she works, okay? And so she just recently sought an AO, an advisory opinion, to see if it was permissible for her to work in the school district where she serves now on the Board of Education. They came back, they said, nope, sorry, you have a choice. You can either be on the board or you can keep your job in this district. They weren't gonna not continue to employ her. They gave her the option of going to another school district. It's a big vendor, that serves a lot of school districts across the state. She said, nope, it's too far. I don't want to travel, even though it's in the same county and it's not really far. So she resigned from the board. But she sought that ahead of participating or voting on anything. Once she was elected, even before she was sworn in, the board superintendent, the current board president, and myself had sat with the new folks doing an onboarding, and it came up, and their attorney advised her to seek an advisory opinion. Because it would be a conflict because she would be enmeshed in the building. She was in the building every day. She had access to staff every day. She could be guiding, giving direction to students or taking directions from staff, which is violative of the volunteer piece under certain opinions that they've issued around board members volunteering in the school district. So that was an area where she sought it ahead of potentially voting on something and then having it be a problem. So they will issue advisories only on prospective behavior, not on behavior not after I've already voted, now you tell me I can't vote. It's only on prospective behavior. Ethics
I think they won't issue one if there's a pending matter.
in another jurisdiction.
No, I mean, if the board member or school official conduct is now the subject of a claim, I don't think they're gonna.
No, they won't issue an
They won't
advisory. That's what then it wouldn't have been prospective
Yeah, there you go.
behavior, right? It would have been something that a board member had already done, either to vote on an issue or participate in something where they deem that there could be a potential conflict. So it's very helpful, and they will turn it around pretty quickly. If you, all you have to do is write, it doesn't require an attorney. You just have to lay out the facts as they exist, send it off to the Ethics Commission, and they will get back to the board member. Now, typically speaking, most advisory opinions are specific only to an individual board member. My set of circumstances I'm inquiring about. If the Ethics Commission believes that it has a widespread impact potentially, they will make an advisory opinion public. They will scrub it of all identifying factors, the district, the person's name, and make that advisory a public advisory decision. And there's an expectation that board members will be aware of public advisory opinions when they're made such, meaning if you violate one of the advisories, they're going to say, you were supposed to know what that is. We routinely publish all public advisory and recent ethics decision and school board notes, which you will be receiving electronically. You should be receiving electronically now, for example. So there is an expectation that board members will keep up to date with those latest decisions and avoid conduct that they've already ruled on, okay? Any member of the public can file an ethics charge against a Board of Education member. And so on average, they hear about 85 different complaints, and they issue roughly 35 advisory opinions. Again, that's an average. We went several years without any public advisories because when there weren't at least 6 board members on the SEC, they could not release any advisory opinion as public. And so I think it was 2013, like in January of 2013 or 14, we got 31 public advisory opinions. It was like, whoosh, and we had this massive, growth of advisory opinions. So they will issue them when they have great impact for the public, okay? So if you happen to have violated the act, what are the punishments? What is the SEC authorized to recommend? They can recommend a reprimand, and a reprimand is a letter to you that says, you shouldn't have done this, please do not engage in this conduct again. They can issue a requirement you be censured, and that requires that the board read at a public meeting the censure letter that says you're being punished by having this read in a public meeting and posted, in the district, and it's a formal adoption of the resolution of censure. They can suspend you. They can remove you from a finite period of time, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. They've done that as well. And ultimately, they have the authority to remove you from the board for the remainder of your term, if they so choose to do so. That has been done as well. Again, the SEC, once they hear a case and make a decision, it gets turned over to the commissioner who reviews the decision and then issues a final decision from the Commissioner of Education. If you wish to appeal that decision by the commissioner, it goes to the appellate division in the state of New Jersey to an appeals court.
Just a curiosity, guys, I don't anticipate being removed, but you said until the end of your term. Let's say your term expires and you run again, can you rerun?
You can. Now, there was a case where a board member was suspended for a period of time, but before that suspension went into effect, the term ended. He re-ran, and when he re-ran and he won, he was sworn in, and then he had to sit for his suspension and could not be a full active board member until he had served his suspension, and I believe it was like 90 days, is my recollection. So they do have that authority to do that.
So it can't carry over.
It could carry over to your next term. I mean, I think he took a break of 3 years before he ran again for
3 years and 90 days, as it
and 90
turns out.
days is exactly what it turned out to be. He was sworn in because he was duly elected by the public. It's not a criminal proceeding, right? So it's a little different. And I've already covered this, it's an 18A 12-33. Again, just to be aware, Gov 1 in your first year, Gov 2 in your second year, Gov 3 in your third year, and Gov 4 in the first year of any term. Even if you're anticipating not continuing your board service, please make sure you complete your mandatory training in the year in which it's required, because you will lose CUSAC points if you haven't done that, okay? I have board members who say, well, it's my third year, I'm not running for reelection, so I'm not going to do it. And then they're out of compliance, and it shows up with an out of compliance letter for the board, and it just generates problems. So please, for the sake of your board, not for me, or maybe not for you, you may be like, I'm never doing this again, you know, they said 2 meetings a month, we're done quickly, no problem, they lied. And you may think, okay, I'm done. Please
What-
just do it.
What happens, sorry,
No, no.
if the person that left the board and has a situation is just left on bad terms and the board is out of compliance? Is they're out of compliance, so this individual takes that?
You have to do it by the end of the calendar year. You cannot believe the number of calls I get around December 31st about, how do I register? I can't get on. Please help me get on. I'm trying to do this. And my answer is, we will do we do everything we can, because I want you to be able to be in compliance.
Do you
However-
have somebody that says, no, I refuse to do it, I'm not coming back again?
If you refuse mandatory training and you're out of compliance and you're in the middle of a term, we'll get to the new penalties for that. Because they have now laid out, they just passed new regulations for the School Ethics Commission. They reviewed them, they updated them. All of the professional associations, including New Jersey School Boards, weighed in on the potential new regulations and added comments, which is typically what we do as an association, but also the superintendents did it, as both the business administrators did it. Everyone weighed in on these new regulations, and they finally adopted them by the state board, and they just went into effect. So, and when we wrote this, they were proposed, but now they're enacted.
I apologize for something.
No, it's always a good question I think you can ask. Always keep in mind too, that we offer these trainings in a myriad of ways. You can take the in-person, and if you're a brand new board member, there's a new board member orientation weekend, March 10th and 11th, or 11th and 12th. It is a wonderful opportunity. There's no cost to the district. We have an Ed Foundation that helps to underwrite the cost. We're finally back in person and can offer the weekends again, which is so exciting from our perspective. But as new board members, it is a wonderful opportunity not only to meet other staff from New Jersey School Boards Association, learn lots of information, but also to network with board members who are also new from all across the state. And it's very helpful. It gives you greater perspective than you can have by just serving in your district. And that's a benefit of going to a number of different kinds of trainings, but the in-person is particularly important. We provide what is called live virtual, which is sort of a hybrid. And then we also have a self-paced online course. I, of course, no surprise, would encourage you to go in person whenever possible. I do understand you all are busy, you're volunteers, but there's no one to ask a question of. Like, you have a question today, you want to ask me, I'm right here, I can answer it. There's no one to ask if you're doing the online self-paced course. Or there's no one to say, you know what, you misinterpreted that. That's not what that meant. Let me correct that. Let me help you. And so that's why we're so supportive of the in-person training.
Is there another in-person after March?
There will be, I suspect it will be May or June, because of this new 90-day regulation around new board members being trained. We will have some new folks. There aren't many districts, I think less than 12 at this point, that have April elections, although some boards have moved their elections back from November back to April. There aren't a whole lot of folks that will need it, but there also, we only can accommodate 100 folks at either of our weekends. So that's only 200 board members out of the 400 or 500 roughly in a given year that are elected. The boards across the state, there are 500 school districts. So you multiply that by 3, typically, sometimes more, if there are, unanticipated vacancies like you had this year. It could be more than that, new board members. So I'm sure we will be offering other in-person opportunities, okay? This is closure statements. I've already talked about this a little bit. 30 days you have from today that you were sworn in to fill yours out. The rest of you have until April 30th. You should get a notification that comes directly from the state to you. You fill it out online, so it's quick. You don't have to, in the old days, we used to have to fill it out by paper, 2 copies, 2 original signatures. Now you can just do it out online and send it off. And it's not terribly onerous.
Question for you.
Yes,
Many of us are educators by trade,
yes.
so you need to do a separate disclosure for the district you work in and then for the district
If
you
you're
serve.
required to do one for your district, yes, you should do one for the district and one for the board. I don't know that the systems talk to each other. It's the deal.
Shocking.
Shocking, isn't it? I know it's shocking. Okay, so what is the penalty process? Someone was asking that a little earlier. If you fail to do your mandatory training within that first year, and you get a just cause letter from the SEC, which is what will happen, it says you're out of compliance, right? And that happens. If you take it before the SEC acts on your out of compliance, you're fine. Nothing will happen, except that you will be censured. Okay? If the SEC reaches a decision finding you out of compliance, but before the commissioner finalizes the penalty, you will only face suspension. So they've laid this out. They are tightening up, okay? This year, in December, we had something like 400 folks out of compliance. So, yeah. If you do nothing, they will remove you. Okay? So just be aware of that. You don't want to find yourself in that piece. Those 400 folks didn't ultimately end up all being out of compliance. Some of it was they were duplicately entered in 2 different districts. They had completed it. They were on a send receive board like you had with South Boundbrook, so they had done it. They filled it out with South Boundbrook and taken care of it, but it didn't register here, or vice versa. And I'm not picking on you or saying that happened here, but that was a lot of it. Some of it was charter school folks. They have different deadlines, so that was a part of it. And you know, the year before, we didn't have that many. I routinely just called up every one of the VAs that I had on a Friday before December 31st and said, please, get them registered, let's get them done so that no one's out of compliance. Do you have a question?
Yeah, so my question was, how do you know whether you're out of compliance?
You
So the
will get a
VA
letter.
Let you know, or you get a letter?
You will get a letter, and if you've taken it, and you know you've taken it, if you take it online, we send you an email that says you've completed it, so that you're aware that you've completed it.
And this is for every year, not just for the new board member?
Year 1, year 2, and year 3 of your first term in office. And then year 4, if you run for reelection and win, and then you're done.
But the disclosure statements are everything.
The disclosure statements are annually required. Okay? It will not take you a great deal of time to fill those out. All right, here's the actual code of ethics. You're required to uphold and enforce all laws and regulations of the state board and court order. Okay? So again, you know, you're required to support, and you just heard it tonight, when this gentleman took his oath of office, right? All the laws and regulations of the state of New Jersey, the Constitution of New Jersey, and the Constitution of the United States. It's not a choice. Sometimes Board of Education members may not like all of the rules or the regulations or the State Board of Education decisions, but you are required to abide by those, and you need to know that as publicly elected officials. You're required to make all decisions in the best interest, educational interest of all children, regardless of who they are, okay? Regardless of sex, gender, race, ability, color, religion, all of that. Every child you're responsible for. New Jersey's Constitution says you must provide a thorough and efficient education for every child in the state of New Jersey. Confining your board action to policymaking, planning, and appraisal. And consulting with those people who will be impacted by the policies that are created. Typically, that consultation is done through your administration in terms of policies around district items, educational pieces and so forth. It's not as though we're saying you have to hold a hearing with the public every time you adopt a policy. But again, you know, your job is to see that the district is well run. It is not to run the day-to-day operations of the school district. Your responsibilities lie in the area of policy development, ensuring that there's a quality educational curriculum put into place, communicating with your community, as well as providing monitoring and oversight of things like the budget, doing the superintendent's annual evaluation in terms of the monitoring piece. You have one employee in the school district as a Board of Education. That's the superintendent. Superintendent holds all other staff accountable for their performance. You hold the superintendent accountable for his work in delegating to others and in ensuring that the district is well run. Okay? Yes, it is that you will carry out your responsibility with your colleagues to see that the schools are well run, but you don't run them, which means you're not making the day-to-day operational decisions that govern the school district. Recognizing that authority rests with the full Board of Education. The Board of Education operates by majority rule. That means that as an individual, you have no authority to direct staff, to direct students, to direct anyone in the school district to act. It also means that as an individual board member, you don't have the authority to have the superintendent act either. Only a majority of the full Board of Education has the authority to direct the superintendent to act. So just keep in mind what that means is if the 9 of you all wanted, for example, a different report that was in depth, you wanted a report on the gifted and talented, and you wanted a report on the implementation of the expansion of the preschool program, and you wanted to look at the co-curricular program and how many students are participating and what that looks like, the superintendent would be doing nothing but pulling around your little red wagons, right? You're there for all students. If a majority of the board decided it was really important to look at what you wanted, you would have to make that motion to the board. A second would have to be given. The board would discuss it, and if a majority of the board said, you know what, we need this report, we're directing you to do it. The superintendent would do that. However, that being said, you have district goals. Those district goals drive the work of the school district. And every request of the board for things apart and separate from those items take time away from focusing around the district goals and make a crowded plate even more crowded. So just keep in mind as you're thinking about that, okay? All right, here's a big one. This is one we're seeing a lot of. You will take no personal action or make promises or take private action that may compromise the Board of Education. We're seeing that a lot in terms of social media. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few moments. That is what the School Ethics Commission is spending the lion's share of its time adjudicating, unfortunately. You have to refuse to surrender your independent judgment to special interest groups or partisan political groups, or to use the school for personal gain or the gain of your friends. Simply put, you're required to be objective. You're required to make decisions in the best interests of all students. Even if you're the parent of a football player, or the parent of a madrigal singer, or anything, you have to make decisions that are in the best interests of all students. That means you need to avoid involving yourself with partisan political groups as well, separate and apart from having a personal agenda, of doing what's good for my child. You have to do what's good for all children. And sometimes when you do that, you may think, well, that's not really that great for my child. You have to be able to set aside and take off your parent hat at times and say, I need to do what's best for all children. And it may not be great for my child, but on the other hand, it is good for 99.9% of every student in the district. You have an obligation to do that. Okay? Holding confidential all matters that if were disclosed would needlessly injure perhaps students or staff or the district. Things that are discussed in executive session are only those items that are laid out as exceptions to the Open Public Meetings Law that you can discuss in exec, and they need to be maintained as confidential. That means you can't tell your spouse, your significant other, your child, maybe you can tell your dog or cat. They don't talk back. My dog knows a lot, it's good that she can't speak. But nonetheless, I'm being funny, but you really have to remember that. And sometimes it can be very difficult, sometimes it can be upsetting, but at the same time, you have to hold confidential. Students and staff have an absolute right to have their confidentiality maintained unless they themselves or their parents determine to make something public that is a private school matter. And we've just seen that happen in a school district. It's the first time I have ever seen that disclosed in a school district in the southern part of the state. And a sad circumstance. You're required to vote to appoint the best possible personnel after considering the recommendation of your chief school officer. You are not required to vote yes on every personnel appointment that the superintendent recommends to the board. However, that being said, your educational leader is only going to recruit and bring you the very best folks, because we know from research, right, that the quality of instruction is the largest single determinant of student achievement. So having the very best that you can have in the classroom only benefits the entire school district and every child. You can vote no as long as your reasons are not arbitrary and capricious, and you should have a sound rationale for your piece. If you cannot support a recommendation, as a courtesy, I always suggest and recommend you let your president know as well as the superintendent. You never want a potential staff member sitting in the audience thinking they're going to be appointed and have it be a problem. Okay? It would be embarrassing to you. It's embarrassing to the school. You have to support and protect school personnel in the proper performance of their duties. Even if you sat on the sidelines 2 days ago to a basketball game and criticized the basketball coach, now you've been sworn in as a board member, you can't do that any longer, okay? Sometimes that's a really hard thing for board members to understand.
Can I criticize the other team's coach?
Yeah,
Okay.
as long as you don't, within reason. I hate to say yes because we've seen, but yes, technically you could. But again, that's what we mean by supporting school personnel. If you have a question or a concern, the board's role in personnel is pretty limited in terms of all of your responsibilities. So if you're hearing something out in the community or you personally know of something that is upsetting or concerning, the best thing you can do is let your superintendent know. It goes to the first rule of effective board governance, no surprises. The board does not surprise the superintendent, and the superintendent does not surprise the board. So that is the best thing to do.
I have
Yes.
a question. So in situations like that, is it best? Sometimes I understand the perception is that being not on the board, that every time they talk to you, they're gonna be talking to a board member. But sometimes I find myself having to tell people that I'm coming to you as a parent, not as a board member. And anything board related, I'm not going to comment on because I'm coming to you as a parent of my child.
You are always your child's first and best advocate, always. However, you need to make it very clear that when you're talking to a staff member, it is only about your individual child. So it's either your child's teacher or your child's coach, because they know you're a board member, okay? And sometimes someone might be tempted to say, well, since you're here and we're talking about little Johnny, I just need you to know that, this room, the heat in this room just doesn't work as well as it should.
I've actually had that happen.
Right, and so your response needs to be, okay, well, you know what, you need to take that up with your principal.
And that's what I say.
Right, because you can't direct staff, and staff knows that they have a chain of command that they can follow. to get their concerns addressed, whether it's the principal, depending on the issue, it's the same thing. Board members always need to know what that chain of command is. And sometimes teachers just are tempted because maybe they put in a work order and they feel like nobody's gotten back to them. And you need to say, I'm really sorry, but the board has nothing to do with the day-to-day operation of the district. You need to speak to your principal and direct them back in that direction. And then you let your superintendent know, because the staff knows that that's not an appropriate thing for them to really be doing. Okay? But I am not saying in any way, I actually, when my children were little, I used to send my husband. It was easier, right? I didn't have to say, I'm here as Shannon's mom, I'm here as Brittany's mom.
Right.
I'm not here as a Board of Education member. I had one circumstance where a board member, and by then they were in high school, and we were at impasse in negotiations. And in my district, you had to make an appointment to the guidance office to speak to the teacher, and I did that. And it was a circumstance where I was a senior, and it was a calculus course, and I shouldn't say this as an educator, but I'm really was not very good at math and its development. Like, I didn't pass on a lot of math genes to this child. And she was concerned about college admission and so forth. And the teachers had gone to work to rule, which meant they stopped giving extra help, and she needed the extra help and the extra credit that was offered prior to their going to work to rule. So I went in to have a conversation. The guidance counselor was there, the daughter was there, I was there. Stood up and brought a new letter. Okay, well, it's been fun. Thank you very much. I left, my daughter left. My daughter, of course, wouldn't talk to me for about a week and a half over that, but I did what I could, which was to let the superintendent know, and then I hired a tutor. It was one of those costs. Unfortunately, it was not professional on behalf of a staff member at all. It was clear, my daughter, to talk about calculus BC, not the contract.
That's one of my fears, because
Well,
like
I will
the
tell you,
educator.
it only ever occurred once, and it never occurred again. But it was infuriating, and sometimes it could happen. It's very rare. Teachers are professional and they care about kids. This was someone who was very young and untenured, and perhaps thought it was necessary to do that. I don't know. I'm really a lovely person. I mean, you guys know me. I'm not terrified. But at the same time, I could appreciate that, so it was easier to send my husband to church. Some people don't have that option, right? They can't do that, or your spouse or someone else isn't available to advocate. And there's no one like a mama bear to advocate as opposed to, sorry about that, but it's true. And so, it happens. But anyway, moving on. You're required to refer all complaints to the chief school administrator. Your job is not to investigate, right? You are not investigators. If someone comes to you with a concern or complaint, you need to let the superintendent know, and it will be taken from there. I've had board members who followed buses around, checking on bus stops and that kind of thing, and coming back and saying that the bus was, late. That's not your job. You are not employed by the district. You do not investigate those kinds of things. You refer to the Oops, I'm sorry. Get right by that. I'm going the wrong way. I beg your pardon. Go back up. Are there any questions on any of the components of the oh, okay, moving on. Conflict of interest. You should recuse yourself if you have any personal interest in something that the board is voting on. Again, be aware of public perception. If you're voting to give the soccer association use of the field and you're waiving the cost of the janitorial service for that and the maintenance crew for that, and they know you're a soccer parent, just don't vote. Okay? Recuse yourself. Be aware of public perception. It's not a legal conflict, but again, just because you can doesn't mean you should. You cannot take any gift or favor. Anything that would give you financial gain, you should avoid. Again, the dividing line is this, that you should not have an advantage that would not accrue to any other person. Sometimes I'm asked, I have a fourth grader, the fourth graders are taking a field trip, could I vote on it? The answer is yes, you can. Your child is not getting a benefit that is greater than every other fourth grader. And that's something to keep in mind. Am I gaining a benefit here that is greater than any other person would gain? Any person who's not a member of the family, but just a parent in the community. Okay? Relationship definitions for context. Immediate family members, okay? They are expanding immediate family members to now include this broader definition. Spouse, civil union partner, domestic partner, dependent child residing in the same household. So what they have done is to expand the definitions around relatives to reflect what's in the nepotism law. Because the ethics law was written prior to the writing of the Code of Ethics. Okay? Dependent child is now determined by who takes them on their tax return. Okay. It's a form of legal definition, right? If you can take the child with the deduction, they're considered a dependent. Okay? A relative. I'm not going to read all of these folks who are related. It's almost anybody you know and probably some relative. That would be a concept. Hiring personnel. You can't hire a relative of a board member or a relative of the chief. If you have a relative that's already currently employed in the school district, when you become a board member, you were employed before you became a board member, their grandfather, but you can't vote on any contract or promotion or anything of that nature. You have to recuse yourself, you can't participate. In terms of collective bargaining, this chart is in there. Again, always check with your board attorney, but it lays out. Again, you know, perception is important, so just be aware of that. Collective bargaining, you know, other bargaining units, it used to be that an endorsement by your local education association automatically took you out of your ability to negotiate for a full year. They eliminated that with an advisory committee. So it's not an automatic conflict. Filing considerations, the SEC will try to review the filings and ethics complaint with favorable, most favorable way to the board member rather than to the complainant. But they will look at that. And again, the commission complaints. I'm trying to start.
Go ahead.
There are some recent commissioner decisions, they're in your packet, I'm not going to take time to go through all of them. A lot of them are. Yep, so again, those are the kinds of pieces that you need to be very cautious about. Keep in mind that when you're running for elections, things that you can do on social media, such as having a Facebook page, may be okay, but once you're sworn in, you're now a public official, and it's a completely different animal. Which is not to say that you give up all of your First Amendment rights to free speech, but it is bounded by limitations as a publicly elected. Okay? These are some of the commissioner decisions. Again, you need to be mindful. One is around board members investigating a parent complaint were found to have violated code of ethics. They did not wait for the superintendent to do an investigation. It wasn't a failure of an administrative solution. The board member jumped in and did that. Okay, and there are several of these in your package. Actually, I'm not going to take time. Here are the public advisory. A lot of them speak to what you can and can't vote on. We voted on the miracles of the superintendent, even though they had a family member employed in the district, and the superintendent left, but they voted to approve them. And even after the suit left, right, year, and they said, you voted on it, you're talking to school employees of the district. So just need to be, so I'm not.
Okay, excuse me, everybody. We have just a couple of more minutes for the ethics meeting, and we just keep it down. I know there's a lot of excitement tonight around on the awards, but just keep it quiet for a few minutes so she can finish out.
I'm doing it really quickly. I know you're all waiting. Trust me. Okay? Volunteering in school. There are certain prohibitions around volunteering in schools if you're a Board of Education member. They mostly have to do with your amount of time that you're spending in the district, that you cannot direct students or staff, and you should not be a mess in the building. One-time events, whether it's Read Across America, whether it's chaperoning a field trip, all of those kinds of things are permissible, but you should not be viewed the public as always being in the school building or directing students or directing staff. They said that's not aligned with your executive function as a Board of Education member. If you have any questions, your board attorney can advise you of that and let you know you should not be handling district funds either. Now, that's on one hand. On the other hand, you can be a PTO officer because that was a much earlier decision. You can be a PTO officer, but again, I would encourage you not to be handling PTO's money either. Okay? Again, just so that you're not giving the public a perception that perhaps something is amiss. Okay? Board members participating in interview committees, they have said you can, with the permission of high-level administrative interview committees to observe and witness them, but not to participate. They've also issued separate advisory that says we discourage board members from doing that. So sometimes they sort of come down on both sides of an issue. They've also said board members may not participate in exit interviews. While the board may want exit interviews done, if you saw, for example, a rash of people leaving, you want to know why, you direct the superintendent to conduct those exit interviews and provide a report to the board, but you would not be doing the exit interview. So it seems a little contradictory that you can sit in and observe one, but you can't sit in and observe the other. However, different membership of different ethics commissions over time sometimes have issued things that are a little different. Social media, again, you don't give up all of your rights, but you need to be mindful whether a reasonable member of the public would presume that what you were writing was speaking on behalf of the board. And so they have recommended, and we strongly recommend, that anything you post includes this disclaimer word for word. The following statements are made in my capacity as a private citizen and not in my capacity as a board member. These statements are also not representative of the board and individual members and solely represent my own personal opinions. So if you're going to post anything, please include this disclaimer, because the SEC has said, absent that disclaimer, the public can perceive that you're speaking on behalf of the board and not yourself. Additionally, they have said, even if you have this disclaimer and the content of what you post would lead the public to perceive through a preponderance of what you have said, that you're discussing board business in a post, the disclaimer doesn't cover you and it could still be a potential ethics violation. That is an important piece for you all to keep in mind, okay? Content matters, because even with that disclaimer, you can now have violated it. This is my favorite piece to all of this. The SEC said public words which derogate from the mission of a Board of Ed serve no purpose, create unnecessary hostility and animosity in the community, and ultimately have the greatest detrimental impact on the very people that the respondent was asked to serve, the students. Okay? So while they acknowledge the sanctity of the First Amendment, there are also cautions around posting on social media. I had a board member said to me, I don't even know where to begin with that because I tweet and you only have 180 characters, you think? When you tweet, and I said, well, what can I tell you? Stop tweeting. Or don't tweet about board business, the weather, your family, your dogs, your kids. The public has the right to observe and conduct district business. they're here tonight, they will see you conduct district business. That's where your discussion needs to take place, not on Facebook and so forth, okay? Again, it doesn't matter what, in the what platform you're using, this is true for print. If you wrote a letter to the Courier News, this was true when I was a board member, and board members used to write letters to the editor. It's, the same thing is true, whether it's in social media or somewhere else. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I thank you for your attention. I didn't mean to go past, but I don't like to keep all of these students. If you have any questions, you all know how to get hold of me. Don't hesitate to email, call. I'm always available to answer your questions. I'm happy to do so. And I look forward to seeing you all at the spring meeting, because I think you will be able to become a certified board by that point in time. It's very exciting, so I hope you will all come to that meeting. Okay? So thank you.
Back for us, I think, in March, right?
I will be
Do
back.
evaluation
I will
training.
be back in March.
Yes,
Okay?
we'll see you again soon.
And all of the links to all of the things that are in here are here. You can just put them into Google and read it if you want to do that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
See you in a month.
All right.
Right. So I don't-
You are unmuted and you can.
Okay, thank you everyone for waiting. We were just wrapping up the training over there, as you saw, our annual ethics training. We are, for those of you with the agenda, we are down to item 1.7, which is president's comments. I am not the president, but I'm gonna make comments anyway, because I only get to do it about once a year. First, I want to thank everybody for coming there. It's amazing to see this many people here. We've had empty rooms, so this is great for us. Please continue to come out and see, what business, we're undertaking here, because we are working for you. So we'd like to see as many people here as possible. This is for no particular reason, but it bears saying every single month. I want to thank all of our staff and all of our administration for the wonderful job that you guys are doing. Nothing particular has happened other than you guys work hard every single day, and I think we should. So I thank you doubly for that. And last for the board, this is not as much for the public other than a warning. We got an announcement that the dodgeball tournament is coming up, and I expect a better showing than we had last year. We actually have a student member on our board who's welcome to join our team. He's definitely more athletic than some of us. So to all of you who beat us last year, which was a lot of you, maybe we'll have a little better showing this year, I hope. And that's about all I have for President's comments. And over to you, sir.
Okay, good evening, everyone. You can do better than that. Good evening, everyone. Very happy to have you here tonight at our February meeting. We are so excited to recognize a bunch of students, our esteemed teachers of the year and colleagues. We're happy to have you, and we hope tonight we show you the type of attention, the type of recognition that you deserve every day, because we really appreciate everything that you do. So the agenda says that we will start with our teachers of the year. However, a teacher of the year stopped me today and said, Dr. Freeman, I think we should start with the people that are the reason we're here, and that is the students of the month. So I would like to call, yes, go ahead, give her up. So I would like to call up Dr. Esquire Lamont, Students of the Month.
Good evening. Congratulations to Emma Perez. Emma currently attends Lamont School. She's in the pre-K program. Her teacher is Mrs. Kilgore. Emma has an older sister named Chloe. Emma's favorite thing is her letters and the letter sounds. Emma loves to dance. She would like to become a teacher when she grows up. Congratulations, Emma. Congratulations to Samantha Valverde, currently in kindergarten in Mrs. Lewis' class. Samantha has one sister named Grace. Samantha's favorite subject in school is math. Samantha likes playing with her friends and helping them. She also enjoys drawing, doing puzzles, and going to school. When Samantha grows up, she wants to be a doctor, a police officer. Congratulations, Samantha.
Yes, you want this nice picture of it?
Oh, come on over here.
Say cheese for the camera.
That means, look at mom and dad first.
Sorry, you go ahead.
And then, thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, next up we have Lafayette. Dr. Sid Sherman represents.
Hello, everyone. The first student of the month from Lafayette is Dylan Lozano. Dylan's teacher is Miss Perrone, and Dylan's siblings are Jaden and Misa, and his favorite subject is math. I was a math teacher. Dylan's favorite hobbies are playing video games, and when you grow up, you want to be a scientist. Excellent job. Our next student of the month from Lafayette is Annalise Lensich, and Annalise's teacher is Miss Nelson. Annalise's siblings are Houston and Vivian, and her favorite subjects are math and writing. Annalise's favorite hobbies are gymnastics and karate, and when Annalise grows up, she wants to be, and this is a first for me, a contortionist.
Good job. One more round of applause. Next up, Pauling School, we have Mrs. Looney.
Our first student of the month is Jaylee Cruz. Jaylee Cruz is in 3rd grade and in Mrs. Petrusky's class. Mrs. Petrusky said that she really wishes that she could have been here today because she is absolutely excited that you got student of the month. She has 2 brothers, Gianni and Jaden. Her favorite school subjects are science because you get to do a lot of activities. That's why everybody loves science. Favorite hobbies are basketball, soccer, and gymnastics. And her career plans is that Jaylee would like to be either a meteorologist or an actress. Congratulations, Jaylee.
Come on down, Jaylee.
Congratulations. All right. That's okay. And you can go, oh, one from mom over there? You got some?
Got it.
Okay.
Round of applause.
For 4th grade, we have Nicholas Lynch. Unfortunately, he thought the meeting was at 5:30, not 6:30, so he came early and had to leave.
We can still give him a round of applause.
Yes, of course. He has 2 siblings, Emily and Isabella. His favorite school subject is gym. His hobbies are soccer, football, and playing outside. And well, if he's good enough, he wants to be a professional soccer player. Our 5th grade student is Freddie Reyes. He is in Miss Chinish's and Miss Hellman's class. He has 2 sisters. One is younger and one's older. His favorite subject is English language arts. And he likes to play with his toys, like his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And he also wants to be a professional soccer player when he grows up and win the World Cup. Freddie Reyes. And then our 6th grade student is Farida, and she is in Mrs. Orsi's and Miss Esposito's class. She has 2 sisters. Again, one's younger and one's older. Her favorite subject is math. She likes to play video games, and her favorite game is Roblox. And she wants to be a video game designer or a lawyer when she grows up. Farida.
And next up for community school, Dr. Santa Sermon again.
Hello again. I'm only in one school, I promise. So our first representative student of the month from the community middle school, and let me see, there it is, Omar Flores. Omar, where are you?
Omar.
I saw you.
Come on down.
Miss Gonda, and has 2 older siblings named Oscar and Amelia. PE, favorite subject. I don't blame you, that was mine as well. And favorite hobbies are watching movies, playing with the dog Fluffy, PS5, Oculus, which I wish I knew what that was, and VR headset, there we go, and a member of the middle school band, which I think is awesome. And Omar, when he grows up, wants to be mechanic or scientist. A few words just from Miss Gonda. Omar was chosen for Student of the Month due to his leadership in the classroom, and that is something to be very proud of. Is engaged in answering questions, helping peers when needed, and participates in discussions, and always can be counted on to share his views and his answers. Omar has shown tremendous progress since the beginning of the school year and is a pleasure to have in class. He's a highly participating member and helps his peers each day. Omar, congratulations. Our next student of the month for the community middle school is Julian Stellar Naranjo. Julian was recommended by his teacher, Mr. Thine. Julian has 2 siblings, Diana and Daniel, and his favorite subject is language arts, math, and gym. Julian enjoys reading, playing video games, and playing with his Shih Tzu. I imagine it's not here tonight. I think I've seen it come to school quite often, right? And career plans are to be an interior designer or a book illustrator. And Mr. Thine also wrote a couple nice words and said, Julian is an incredibly polite student who always tries his best during class. He genuinely cares about education and classmates, displaying his thorough love for education through his actions. Even when struggling, Julian does not give up or complain and asks his teachers for assistance. He's an exemplary student and serves as a role model to his peers. Congratulations.
Next up for our high school, Mr. Smith. Man with many awards.
All right. Good evening. I would like to take a moment to congratulate our Crusader Citizens of the Month. For those of you that do not know, this award is a recognition of students demonstrating positive Crusader citizenship traits such as responsibility, respect, kindness, integrity, cooperation, tolerance, and/or perseverance. Our first recipient is Tiffany Brown. Okay, Tiffany has 4 siblings, 2 older brothers, a little brother, and a little sister. Her favorite subject is geometry. Her favorite hobbies include going out with friends, watching Netflix, and reading. After high school, she would like to go to college or a university to further her education. She's undecided what she would like to do with her future plans. Okay. I know our next recipient could not be with us this evening as well. Oh, Tiffany is here.
She's being humble about it. Taking the roundabout route.
Okay, our next recipient is Jenna Cabral. Jenna has 1 sister, Maria Angelou Cabral. Her favorite subject is math, AP Calculus in particular, which gives me anxiety. Her favorite hobbies include playing volleyball, and she would like to take electrical engineering at a 4-year university in the future. Our next recipient, Jessica Garcia. Jessica has 2 siblings, Melissa and Shirley Garcia. Her favorite subjects are math and English. Favorite hobbies include cleaning, singing, bike riding, and photography. Jessica hopes to become a software engineer, hoping to attend MIT and working at Google. Jessica?
Congratulations to us.
Last but certainly not least, we have our final recipient, Kerry Malpartida. Kerry has 1 sibling, Rosie Malpartida. His favorite subjects include mathematics and lunch. Who doesn't love lunch? Favorite hobbies include reading, playing badminton, and playing video games. Harry hopes to further his education and hopes of becoming a psychologist in the future. Congratulations.
One applause for all of our students of the month. We're going to go with our support staff of the month from Lamont Annex.
Congratulations to Mrs. Brimage. Mrs. Brimage regularly goes above and beyond to help staff, students, and parents. She's always does it with a smile. The effort Mrs. Brimage puts in to help our families doesn't go unnoticed. She helps families navigate the Genesis Parent Portal when needed and is always available to answer questions about lunch, the calendar, registration, etc. She's even taken a course to learn basic Spanish words so she can better communicate with her families. Mrs. Brimage always goes out of her way to check in with staff, make sure they have everything they need to succeed. She assists with arrival, dismissal, bus duty, etc. She's excellent at multitasking and helps ensure the building is running as smooth as possible. Mrs. Brimage is a true team player and a ray of sunshine. We are lucky to have her part of our team. Congratulations, Mrs. Brimage.
You wanna hold it open like the student?
Madam,
For your picture?
see that smile every morning.
Oh, he's doing more. He does a lot, he does a lot. I think, all right, we're good. 5.
Congratulations. Next up, our educator of the month, educational specialist of the month from Lafayette Schools, Ms. Michelangelo Medillion. Mika. Yes, you can be here with us this evening. Okay, at this time, we have very special guests. Those esteemed teachers of the year from each school. And I'll tell you, it's a great honor because we have so many great teachers in the district. I hope parents, you would agree with my round of applause. They were chosen not only by the administration, but by their peers to represent their school as teachers of the year. So we will begin with Lamont Annex Teacher of the Year, kindergarten teacher, Ms. Christina Pemberton.
Congratulations to Mrs. Pemberton. Mrs. Pemberton grew up in Bound Brook. She attended Smalley School and graduated from Bound Brook High School. Mrs. Pemberton is currently teaching kindergarten and uses her dynamic personality to make a massive impact on the students, staff, and families she interacts with. She's always going above and beyond to make sure her students have all of the tools they need to be successful. If a student needs a code or some school supplies, Mrs. Pemberton taps into all of her school resources to provide the needed items. She actively collaborates with families to ensure they're kept up to date with their child's progress and are informed of what's happening in the class. She also has an open door policy so parents can ask questions or schedule meetings regarding their children as needed. Mrs. Pemberton is a natural leader and a team player at school. She plays a key role in helping the kindergarten team put together events such as the Thanksgiving celebration, the Moving Up celebration, and more. As a mentor to new staff and provides them with support as needed. Mrs. Pemberton is natural at her job and her passion for early childhood education shines through in her work. She's an exceptional and talented teacher, and we are very lucky to have her part of our team. Congratulations.
Just so you can take a picture and pose with your beautiful trophy. How beautiful is that? Congratulations, Ms. Pemberton. And next up, our educational specialist of the Year from the Lawton Annex is Kristen Martinez.
Martinez. As a speech therapist, Mrs. Martinez takes a very hands-on collaborative approach to her work and level of care. Mrs. Martinez goes above and beyond to assist the needs of the students and communicates effectively with students, staff, and families to ensure the best possible outcomes. Mrs. Martinez uses her years of expertise in the field to assess students' needs and create structured plans for families and staff to implement. She regularly attends meetings and provides suggestions to help students going as far as breaking down the therapy she provides her students to help staff and parents understand the process. She works closely with our parties so that the therapies she provides are carried over to the student's classroom or home. She also sends home daily communication logs so the parents are aware what skills their child is working on in therapy. Mrs. Martinez is a true team player. Beyond her role as a speech therapist, she's always willing to help with any task needed in the building. We are lucky to have her as part of our team. Congratulations.
Congratulations once again. And from Lafayette Schools, Amy Zaramba.
Over the course of her 23 years in education, Mrs. Amy Zarama has not only shaped the lives of the children she encounters on a daily basis, but has created a learning environment where her students can flourish while having a sense of belonging. Of elementary education, with a specific emphasis on language acquisition, has allowed her to support her students in a way that ensures they are afforded the best opportunities to master skills necessary to be successful individuals, both inside and outside the classroom. Mrs. Zarama's support and understanding of her families who are new to this country is a key component to the relationships we build to aim at our community. Mrs. Zarama has served as a mentor to many new teachers, providing the absolute best support as they navigate their new role in education, passing on her strong belief in supporting her students and families by any means necessary. This is seen by her peers, as she stated in a narrative given by a fellow employee who nominated Mrs. Zarama for Governor Educator of the Year. Quote, "She not only creates strong relationships with her students, but she's consistently advocating for their needs. Mrs. Zarama continues to build strong relationships with the families of her students to better support their needs." Mrs. Zarama, congratulations.
Next up from Smalley School, we have Mrs. Mallon.
Diane Mallon has been a teacher in the Bound School District for over 10 years. But we were always supposed to be together. We were always supposed to work together because Mrs. Mallon actually worked at my elementary school, and I missed having her as my third grade teacher because she was on maternity leave. So we were always destined to work together. And I am so thankful to have you at Smalley School. She has started in the district as an academic support instruction teacher, or an ASI teacher, in 5th grade at Lafayette School, and is currently part of the 6th grade as an ASI teacher at Smalley School. Mrs. Mallon primarily works with helping students become better readers. During her 10 years in Bound Brook, Mrs. Mallon has actively been a member of a number of school committees, including the K-6 Curriculum Committee, school-wide Title I Committee, and Language Arts Review Committee. She has worked with student teachers, mentor teachers new to the district, and has been an instructor for both our Extended Learning Academy and our summer school programs. Mrs. Mallon has developed curriculum and works with the Middle Earth program after school and during the summer. She has said that each day she hopes she can positively influence her students to become better readers and love learning. She's able to do what she loves every day with the love and support of her colleagues, the ASI team, the sixth grade team, members of Smalley staff, and her wonderful family, Mike, Richard, Jacqueline, and Alexandra. Congratulations, Mrs. Mallon.
And from our community middle school, Mr. April Hyder.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let you in on a little something from this week. At our principals meeting, my colleagues were quick to point out how I could be long-winded at times.
No.
So I've cut this down about 25 minutes, so everyone. The community middle school is proud to recognize 7th grade social studies teacher, Mr. Andy Heiser, as its 22-23 For years, Mr. Heiser has been inspiring students, capturing their imagination, engaging their minds, and challenging their intellect. Most students leave middle school with stories about their favorite teacher, and at the center of their experience is the notion about how much Mr. Heiser cares about them as individuals. Over the years, Mr. Heiser has coached high school football and basketball, chaperoned the 7th grade trip, the Rutgers Day trip, the RVCC Holocaust trip, the 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C., and many others. He's worked on multiple building-based initiatives. I probably added you to something today, just telling you. District initiatives, and basically anything that comes to the table, including serving as a mentor each year for new teachers in the district. Mr. Heiser is the heart and soul of the middle school and is an excellent role model for all in the teaching profession. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Last but not least, Bound Brook High School Teacher of the Year, Lee Casperson.
Joe kind of stole my stick here because I brought the long version and the bridge version, so I'm going to make a comment about how I feel about Mr. Casperson as a professional and a friend. There's not enough words for me to even describe it, but I'll do my best in this short little paragraph. Mr. Casperson is the epitome of a role model and an advocate of children. He has a rapturous love for America and its ideals and an infectious enthusiasm for teaching social studies. He effectively engages students by treating teaching and learning as a collaborative process and by showing his students that their thoughts and opinions are valued. He is fully committed to creating a learning environment that is safe and secure, cultivated by a culture of trust and collaboration. Essentially, Mr. Casperson demonstrates high ethical standards, which is apparent through his relationships within the school community. Due to his hardworking nature and flexible attitude, he makes Bound Brook High School a more effective and efficient environment to work, learn, and grow. His dedication and passion in making Bound Brook High School a better place has been commendable in conjunction with his work ethic and professionalism. Moreover, Mr. Casperson enthusiastically contributes to extracurricular activities and demonstrates leadership in these activities as well. For example, his role as the assistant boys soccer coach and spring track coach co-advisor of the National Honor Society, facilitator of the Summer College Readiness Now program, and an avid elective teacher, all of which are important components of the entire educational program since they are necessary for successful learning outside of the classroom and are as the same as other learning experiences. Please join me in congratulating Mr. Casperson for being named the recipient of the Bound Brook High School Teacher of the Year Award, a recognition that he is most deserving.
I think we should give all of our Teachers of the Year one last round of applause. Okay, we can have all of the Teachers of the Year come on stage. We're gonna do a big shot on stage. I see some faces like you don't want to come, but tonight you have no choice. You want to be recognized.
I might be.
He's like the photographic director. No, you got it. Go ahead.
Wait till we bring the students up. There's 100 people. Shimmy, try to shimmy over.
Parents and students, if you wait a couple of minutes, we're gonna get a shot with you as well.
Students of the month,
If
you're
you like a
next.
picture with me, I'm gonna be back there after, so we can take a picture together.
There's a lot of pictures at these meetings, so it wasn't always the way. You gotta dress nicely. I haven't been home yet to change. I was home for 8 minutes today. And to me chicken nuggets. Squeeze. I don't know.
What are you saying, Joe?
Yeah, tell us how you want us there, Tom. Tom, do we need to do 2 rows?
No, we're good.
Yeah, okay.
You don't want to be like every other one, or?
I don't know.
Oh, you want to look?
Yeah, where are we looking?
What do I do with my hands? Oh, there's a cell phone down there. There's another one. All right, good.
Just look as awkwardly as possible.
And the next. Not tall enough.
Okay.
It's time for the next 2 market groups.
Yeah.
I'm good.
All right. Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, students of the month, come on up. Students of the month, come on up.
You want their parents?
Parents, you can come with us.
Yeah, parents, if you want to be in the picture, you did the work
Parents,
too.
if you'd like to be in the picture, come on up.
Were you gonna climb up? This is my son's friend who lives at Oak Hill. They used to go to speech. We can speak. You know Jonathan's dad? You know Jonathan's speech? That's my boy. Yeah? Come on in.
Keep following.
He told me yesterday, he said, you know, Dylan is the student of the month. He was very excited for you. My son and Dylan used to go to speech together. Take your time, we'll wait for you.
I still need 2 rows for this, so can we tighten up this again?
Anywhere, we should probably.
Val, I need 2 rows.
We need 2 rows.
2 rows for this.
Rows, so everybody.
Everybody third grade and under.
Shorter.
Yes, third grade and under, come forward. Come on, take a couple steps. Come on. You good? Come on up and everyone squeeze in behind them.
That's it.
There we go. Mr. Volmer, there we go.
You got it, the whole point of this is so you can move over, so we can fit more people. That was kind of the idea.
Now we just have one bended row.
There you go. Now we're all in.
We're good.
What? Really, not about this. It takes a lot. I don't know why he does it. Congratulations, everyone. Good job, parents. Congratulations, Dylan.
Congratulations.
Yeah, sure. We have no, I'm just gonna say, the microphone, you don't. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just gonna take a short 5 to 10 minute break, just so everybody can stay or
All right, you're unmuted.
Okay, we're gonna get back to the meeting with a presentation from Mr. Mormon. When you're ready, sir.
Board members, can you see from there?
Yes.
Welcome to come down if you can.
This is also on your agenda. If you want to look there, there's a digital copy on there as well.
So I'm only gonna highlight about 5 or so slides. You guys have this presentation. We'll also put it on the website tomorrow for you to look at. This presentation is on our results from the Start Strong administration, which was in October of 2022. So for understanding what the Start Strong assessment is, this is the best slide. It produced information that eventually will be used by our teachers in the classrooms to evaluate each student's. They were administered quickly, some as short as 45 minutes, and provide immediate results. But be careful not to compare Start Strong to the NJSLA because they measure different things. Okay, the main item on this slide says that the Start Strong reports on prior year academic standards. Okay, so the Start Strong in October tests on the year prior. As I said, 45 to 60 minutes. Okay, the next 4 slides just demonstrate that each specific Start Strong assessment measures prior year standards in all areas, ELA, math, and science. Again, the state wants us to warn against comparing Start Strong with NJSLA data. They're 2 different assessments. Nor are the Start Strong's predictors of performance on the NJSLA. Okay, Start Strong provides data points in these areas: district level curriculum planning and revisiting prerequisite concepts and skills, evaluating scope and sequence, providing professional learning supports, and using each student's individual student reports for conversations between parents and educators on where the child may need support in the upcoming school year. Start Strong assessment is one part of a portfolio of data, which should be used to analyze student performance. Okay, and that takes us to Bound Brook's results. So in ELA, we tested grades 4 through 10. Unlike the results from the NJSLA and even the NJGPA, which were much more concise and specific, Start Strong just has 3 areas. More support needed, some support needed, and less support needed. So the students who performed the best fell into the less support category. On down to more support needed. Those students need the most support. So here in ELA, the grade that performed the best according to this is our grade 6, who had the highest percentage of less support needed. Moving on to math. So math is a little different. When you get to the high school, there's no grade assessment for math. It's broken down by offer algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. So the area where the best area of less support needed actually was at the high school in geometry. Only 3 grades test in science in Start Strong, grades 6, 9, and 12. And there are the results. As I mentioned, Start Strong, the state didn't give us nearly as much data as the previous 2 presentations. These are the subgroups for ELA as compared to district totals. Math. And then finally in science. Okay, this takes us to our strategies for intervention. What are we doing to help our students across the district? In each subject area tested, math, science, and ELA, our supervisors, administrators, and teachers are reviewing the results to identify patterns of need and to modify pacing to better support students. There's different professional development ongoing. There's collaboration to share strategies to support our English learners in math. And we're using a universal screener, Key 3 in grades 5 through 8 to monitor student progress and to provide adequate interventions. Okay, ELA. There's professional development on Orton Gillingham for teachers in pre-K through 5. This focuses on phonemic and morphemic awareness of words, their roots, and affixes. And again, we're looking at specific subgroup populations, what their needs are, and we're collaborating to provide better instruction, including small one-to-one instruction where needed. Okay, in science, we're focusing on English learners, how we could help support their vocabulary development. All teachers will be sheltered English instruction certified in the area of science. We're going to we are implementing more project-based learning opportunities that reflect real-world problems and connect and better align with testing performance expectations. And we're doing these things to better prepare for the upcoming NJSLA in May. Okay, overall, all subjects, what are we doing? We have an upcoming summer program. We're going to have new schedules, new bell schedules at the middle school and the high school. Our response to an intervention program for the 3 tiers district-wide. Students will be are identified. Elementary teachers will push in and get support from educational specialists. There'll be a Wilson Reading Program for Tier 3 students in the elementary grades, as well as a mentoring program for our middle and high school students. So the district is doing a great job of looking at student data, sharing that information learned with the teachers so we could specifically look at the needs of individual students. Some students are close, they need a little bump. We're going over with the teachers how to provide that bump to help the students move up. Okay, the students that are doing well, we're discussing what are we going to do to keep students at that level. So we're trying to break it down more individually. The administrators and I enjoyed a good session with our Linkit advisor, who not only shared results, but we shared ways that we could help individual students. That's it. Thank you, everybody.
I have one question. On the scheduling for the middle school and high school, how does that affect it? Like the change in schedule, why is that and what are we changing it to help improve this?
Okay, I don't know how much they want me to get into what the change is going to be,
Explain if you can,
but
how the change in schedule is going to impact our ability to provide more support.
one way is additional instructional time. The way the schedule's being changed, I know at the high school specifically, there's going to be less passing time. It's going to be a more efficient schedule. So over the course of the year, we're going to have close to 10% more actual instructional time with our students. That's the big way.
In addition to that, we're going to, and you'll see this in the budget, we're going to have 2 support teachers who are going to do remediation based on student tiers. So students who are at a certain level will receive basically another class of extra help in that particular area.
I have a question. I don't know if you'll have the answer. Just curious. I believe this is the second year of Start Strong, or is it?
Yes.
Right?
Second.
And from what I was told, this was initially because we wanted to see kind of, even though everyone hates the term, learning loss due to COVID. Do you know if there are plans to continue this test beyond this year?
Everything we hear is that it's here to stay. Yeah.
I do love more testing.
I have one quick question. This is all through, the state, et cetera. Do they do this, can you see how like districts perform and how, throughout the state, things like that? Is that data that we don't get?
I think it's going to be, we're going to put it, ours is public right now. It's on our board agenda. So I think it's possible to do that. But probably a better way is just to look at the state report cards that the state provides for each. That's going to give you a more comprehensive view rather than the quick snapshot that Start Strong gives you.
Do we have data from 5 years ago, 10 years ago? How do these numbers reflect what we did 5 years ago, 6, 7, 10 years?
Well, that's the issue. Start Strong's only in its second year. So we only have data for 2 years, and the state wants to make it clear that you can't compare the Start Strong assessment with any other. It's a very unique assessment.
Do we have any historic data?
On other assessments, sure.
So
We
where did our kids do, 6th grade, what were they doing math 5 years ago versus what they're doing this past year?
On Start Strong, that didn't exist
All right, so
5 years ago.
So 5 years ago, 6th graders were at 42%, and now they're at 43%. I mean, is there any way that we can gauge whether we're making progress?
Not with this test.
Not with this particular assessment. Assessments have changed since 5 or 6 years ago, but we will show you data which shows how students have progressed at a committee, a coming committee meeting in terms of how they've progressed over the last couple of years that we've had this same test.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank
All right, thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. May I have the floor to correct an agenda omission? I recommend to amend the board agenda to add item 2.6, which is the presentation of the June 30, 2022 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, the Auditor's Management Report, and the Corrective Action Plan by Ms. Valerie Dolan, CPA from Nissafakia Company CPAs.
Absolutely. Do we need a motion?
Second, all in favor?
Can I get a motion to amend?
Motion.
Motion, thank you, Ms. Zeno. Second? Thank you, Ms. Hyde. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you. Then it's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Valerie Dolan, CPA from Nissafakia Company CPAs.
I want to present to you. I can usually hear me, and hopefully everyone can hear me. Once again, thank you for moving me up a little bit on the agenda. I appreciate that. Just to give you a little bit of information, we've completed our audit. I know it's a much later time frame than you've normally seen our audit. The state has delayed us some information. Fortunately, that information was not received until the end of January, with the deadline of an audit being December 5th. Obviously, that data really did hold us up. But as soon as we got through the information that was received from the state, we tried to expedite this report to get it to you as early as we could in February, because there is critical information that you need for your budget that you're building. Just to give you a little bit of a refresher, there are 2 audit documents that you have been given. The first one is our annual comprehensive report. That is the larger, bigger audit that is actually made up of 4 sections. It is an introductory section, a financial section, a statistical section, and a single audit section. The introductory section just really gives you an overview of the district. The financial section really walks you through all the finances of the district, the various receipts, expenditures, things of that nature. The statistical section is the J section. That's actually a very informative section. It's 10 years comparative data. It's 10 years comparative data on Bound Brook itself. It's on the County of Somerset and on the state. So there's a lot of comparative data for you to look in there. And then there's the single audit section, which is your compliance with grants and on the assorted grant funds. That being said, it's a lot. And then there's additionally a small management report, which is my report to the board. When we go through this whole report, it's a very large report. I really do focus everybody on one financial. That's the most important in this book, which is the audit schedule C1. What it does is it walks you through your budget. And it takes you from all of your budgets. It shows you all of where the revenues came in. It walks you through all of your expenses, where the transfers, and gives you how did we land at the end of the year, at the end of the day, because that's the most important thing. The district ended their year with a little over $11.3 million in what we call fund balance. That fund balance is then broken into various buckets of funding. A large portion of that is $5.7 million, which is in your capital reserve. That is money you've set aside from various sources that will be used to support future capital that needs to be done. You have an additional just under $1 million at $950,000 in a maintenance reserve. That money will be used to fund any type of maintenance costs that overrun from your budget or need to be brought into your budget. You have $250,000, which is in an emergency reserve. That money is sitting there in case there was an emergency similar to the pandemic. Districts were allowed to utilize those funds if need be. There's about $300,000 in unemployment compensation. There is about 600 encumbrances. What those encumbrances are is that money makes purchases that were incurred by the district but not completed by my audit date, therefore they're still carried. And then lastly, it leaves you with the 2 big numbers. The first one is an unassigned fund balance, which is at a little over $1.8 million. That is representing, as of June 30th, 4% of your budget expense, and that's the state mandated amount that you're allowed to hold. Starting with the audits dated June 30th of 23, that money reverts back to the 2% that the state used to only allow you. They gave you a 2-year bump due to the pandemic, and they're bringing you back down. And then that's leaving you what we refer to as the true excess, as we would call surplus of the district. That money is actually $1.590. That is the money that will be required to be recycled into your budget for you, which is why I really wanted to get here. That's your critical piece of information. You will need to use that number within your budget to help support operations. Of another couple of few financial highlights, the district actually received and expended a little federal, state, and local grants. There was a large influx of federal funds due to the pandemic, the ESSER funds, the ESSER 2s, ESSER 3s. They've seen a lot of money flow through the districts. Additionally, you have a surplus of, you have fund balance of a little over $1.2 million in your lunch program. That's actually direct result of a federal program called SSO, and that was to fund every lunch. So they were funding, the federal government was funding your lunch program for the last 2 years. That program ended and is now back to the old formula program. So we expect to see fund balances in the lunch programs, and this is common across every district, coming back down again to where they've been normally. Looking at the management report, I have 3 recommendations that will require corrective action. The first one is on the area of preschool education. There's a small transfer form. Most of these are all tiny housekeeping items. First of all, is a transfer form that was not filled out properly, needs to be filled out. Corrective action is we're going to fill out the form. Student activities, this one catches a lot of districts here to purchasing and following the guidelines. The biggest thing comes in most of the time we see this in that the advisors are trying to do what's right in their heads. They're thinking, I'm going to hold on to the money and I'm going to keep it until I have every student's funds, and then I'm going to bring it over. It really needs to come over quickly, and all purchase orders need to have all the proper support and documentation just to make sure that things are getting done in the student activities have to follow the same rules as the school district. And then lastly is in the area of fixed assets. The fixed asset report has not been updated by the district in a few years. I think it's time to have a new appraisal done just to make sure that you have every asset to report. Lastly, my report also gives you some suggestions to management. These are nothing that the board has to take action on. They're just more of informational purposes for board and the district. First one is obviously, as I said, there was a large influx of federal funding coming into the district. When there's money, the money follows auditors. Auditors could be potentially in district. Issue when they come is not only in some cases, once they're in, they can look at everything in your federal grants, or in the last couple of years, especially with these ESSER funds, we've seen them just select because obviously there are so much in everywhere, they can't be everywhere to audit everybody's funds. So it's just to be aware that they can be out. Additionally, the other area is a state comptroller's office has been consistently coming out and looking at what we call compensated absences, which is your accrued liability for time off, the sick leave time that accrues. Please make sure you check with labor and make sure that your policies and your procedures are in accordance with the rules and the regulations. The state comptroller loves to come and look at things. Currently, they are focused on the municipal side. When they're finished with the municipals, we're kind of thinking they're going to start coming towards the schools. They were in the schools initially. And then lastly, special revenue funds. When all of those grants are all drawdown after you expend the funds. So we just want districts to stay diligent, drawing down as much money as you can when you can do it. You can draw them down the moment when you've spent those funds. So if you were to ask one of the federal auditors who might come in, they'll tell you should be drawing down monthly. Anyone who works in a business office will tell you that's going to take me forever. So we're suggesting at least do quarterly drawdowns just to make sure that you're not funding your own funds and then having large receivables from the federal government at the end of the year. And like I said, it was a pleasure to work with the transition to your new business administrator, made audit go very smoothly. So I just like to take the opportunity to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to answer. Wonderful. Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.
You too.
Thank you. You too.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to add to Ms. Dolan's presentation that there's a new administration that started with Dr. Freeman in July and myself in September. And last year, if my memory serves me, we had 6 audit recommendations. This year, we improved to 3. Our goal is to eradicate all recommendations next year to come in at 0. All of the items that you mentioned in the corrective action plan are already under implementation. And we would like to thank you, Ms. Dolan, and your team for all of your hard work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, we are open to the public for agenda items only. Tom, you're gonna have to tell us if we have anyone online.
Do you want to do the committee reports?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, we didn't, I got thrown off a little, we did not, well, while Tom's there, you can tell us, but we do have to do committee reports.
You got nothing online.
We got nothing online. All right, well, let's backtrack to committee reports. So we'll just go right down in order. We'll start with education. Is that gonna be you, Mr. Dawson?
Sure.
I wasn't sure.
The Education Committee met earlier this month. We focused mostly on the Linkit assessments from the second administration of Linkit, which is a progress monitoring tool we use in math and language arts to figure out how the kids are doing throughout the year. The district's administrators and teachers have been doing a lot of work looking at that data, trying to measure. In many areas, we're going in the right direction and seeing a lot of growth out of kids, thanks to good work from our school leaders and our teachers. In other areas, we are still trying to figure out what the best next steps are. A couple notable things about this assessment is, for the first time, many of the students who primarily speak Spanish as the primary language were tested in Spanish, which is a good development to let us know how that is progressing. And really, the district's engaged in a lot of work to try to make the best use of the data to drive instructional decisions. So we had a good conversation about that data, and that segued into us getting a little bit of an update about some curricular work that's going on. It is looking at a new language arts program potentially for the fall and evaluating different options. And you never want to look at the results of one assessment and make a decision off of that. But there's a lot of different considerations and needs that the district teachers and administration are considering to try to choose curricular models, professional development, future planning, based upon what our kids are showing right now and what we think they might benefit from. So there's a good discussion. And that's education for this one.
Any questions for education? Okay, we'll move on to governance. That's me. Pretty short this month, actually. We had a bunch of policies that we had to review. Many of them are mandatory changes that we have no say over. There were a few that we did have a small amount to decide, one of which was, I believe, voting for president and vice president of the board, that you now have a choice whether we want to continue with our verbal roll call or do it by paper ballot. We decided to stay with verbal because it's more transparent for the public to see it. We've heard things in other districts don't go so well when they do it on paper, and anything or not, it just doesn't look as good for the public. Another thing was, on that same policy, we could choose between a majority of board members, 10, or a majority of board members present. And we're recommending that we stay the way we are now, which is board members present, which clearly will just make it easier to pass things through. Next, we had, not that we think this will ever happen in our district, but there is a policy now that it's offered to us that we're recommending that the superintendent can now call a board meeting, a special meeting, if the board fails to meet in 2 months. I don't see that would happen, but if that ever happens, Dr. Freeman now has the right to call a meeting. And lastly, and this one did happen once last year, and we were not able to use it, so it's a change that could happen again. We are able to waive the 48-hour requirement to alert the public in the case of an emergency, which happened, for some of us may remember, it happened fairly recently. And we wanted to have a meeting and we weren't able to because of the 48-hour requirement. So we are able to waive that now. So those were the policy changes. There was also one about lice, but that was just a doctor's recommendation, and I don't really want to talk about lice. So, it's gross. Officially, the board stance on that is it's gross. Okay. Also, the most exciting part of that meeting was that we talked a little bit about our path towards board certification. And I have been speaking to Gwen a little bit about that, as obviously she was here training us tonight. And I asked her to find out for us exactly what we needed to become certified. The requirement is 16 hours over a 4-year period. The 4th year prior drops off each year, so you have to keep it current. But to our surprise, we have actually before tonight accrued 12 and a half hours. So we are now at 13 and a half hours, meaning we only need, anybody, math? 2.5 more, there you go. We, next month, will have Gwen back for a training on I'm not sure which one we're doing or if we're doing them together, but we definitely are being trained on board evaluation, self-evaluation, as well as superintendent evaluation. Most of us on the board haven't been here for that process, so it's a really good thing to have before the school year ends and we actually have to go through those processes. Let's see. And the other thing that Gwen did touch on to stay or to become certified is that all of our members have to make sure they complete all first 4-year trainings. So if you're in your first 4 years, make sure you're on top of that. If you need any help with that, where to find it, let Rich or myself know, or Gwen, if you have her contact information. If not, I can get it to you and we can show you exactly where to find that. It's actually right there on the NJSBA website. You can find it there. And let me see. There were some other minor requirements. NJSBA wants to see some things like our contract with the union and some other things, and we've already been in contact with them and made sure they have, or will have when they want it, all the documents that they need. So we are very much on track to become a fully certified board and get our plaque or document or whatever it is that we get so we can proudly display it very soon. And that is governance. Any questions?
I have a question. The 48-hour notification, are you limited to how many you do in the year?
I don't believe that was in the policy. I don't think so. But it does say only in case of an emergency. And I've been here now 5 years and there's totally come up one time. So I would not imagine us abusing that anyway. I wouldn't think it's gonna come up often, if at all.
And the 16 hours is as a board or per?
As a board, so they only count if we have 7 members present. We have to have 7 of 10 of us there for the hours to
Or
count.
the hour will count towards the
Mhm. Yes. Any other questions? Okay, so next would be human resources. Ms. Musson isn't here. Is anyone here from human resources able to talk about what was discussed, or should we wait on that until next month? I don't see anyone raising their hand, excited to talk about it.
I'm on the human resources, but I would have to do it next month.
Okay, not a problem. Yeah, I know that was kind of I don't want to put anybody on the spot, and I know you don't have your notes ready, just in case someone was ready. Operations, we did know earlier in the day that Mr. Zupko wasn't coming, so I believe Mr. Gorski's going to give that report.
Yes, sir, thank you. On Mr. Zupko's behalf, I would just like to introduce the Operations Committee report, which occurred on Monday, February 7th from 5:30 to 6 p.m. The first agenda item for the Operations Committee meeting was the demographic report presentation from Dr. Ross Haber from Ross Haber and Associates. I introduced to the committee Mr. Haber from Ross Haber and Associates, who was approved by the Bound Board of Education to prepare a demographic study to predict student enrollment growth over the next 5 to 10 years, compare the enrollment growth to current facilities, and recommend improved school building utilization. Dr. Haber presented to the committee via Zoom his updated demographic report dated February 2023. Dr. Haber's projections showed steady enrollment growth with the effect of new housing, and separately with the effect of just the organic growth of the population without the effect of new housing. The report also presented a possible grade reconfiguration that could remove as much as 100 to 150 students from one of the most crowded schools and best balance the load of student enrollment without having to add costly classroom additions to the schools. That report is on my agenda tonight for consideration and hopefully approval from the Board of Education. Also at the Operations Committee meeting was the presentation of the annual comprehensive financial report, the auditor's management report from Ms. Valerie Nolan, which you heard the presentation earlier, so I'll save those comments. There's a resolution also on my agenda tonight for approval of the ACFR, the AMR, and the corrective action plan as required. The next item is the 23-24 budget update, ROD grant update, including recent visit from proposed architect and engineer. I introduced the topic of the 23-24 budget, where I indicated to the committee that all revenues for the 23-24 budget, all appropriations have been updated. Many line items still require the use of estimates as we are waiting for information from third parties. One of the largest one is the line item for health benefit expense, health benefit premiums to a district, very labor intensive organization. And we looked at each month's loss ratios and claim utilization to negotiate the premiums for the year with the health insurance carrier. That will continue for the next month before we have that finalized. I indicated to the committee that the 23-24 budget is currently over cap. It's a manageable figure, and administration is working hard to refine the appropriations and get the revenues and appropriations in balance. Also included in the 23-24 tentative improvements to continue to maintain the investments that this community has made in your schools. Right now, the state of New Jersey is offering a unique ROD grant program. It's called a Regular Operating District Grant Program, where the state reimburses school districts up to 40% of eligible costs for capital facility upgrades. So we introduced a architect by the name of Richard Alderiso from DI Group, and he brought an engineer into the schools. And also on my report tonight is a proposal from DI Group Architecture for the compilation of 14 ROD grant applications to the state of New Jersey. Some of these topics are boiler systems to be replaced at the high school, Lafayette Elementary School, Lamont Elementary School, Smalley Elementary School. Also some of the group toilet facilities in the schools we were identified as needing to be replaced. Those include the high school, community middle school, Lafayette Elementary, Annex, and Smalley School. We're also considering adding school vestibules to 3 schools that do not have them yet, and that's the community middle school, Lamont Elementary School, and the Lamont Annex. And the other projects are roof system replacement at the district grandstand, field house, and concession stands. Just because we're applying for those 14 grants, even if they were all approved, it doesn't mean we can still get the 60% into the budget. That's yet to be determined by the members of the Board of Education, which are the priorities that we do this year. And the final item that was discussed at the committee level was a change order from the contractor working on the Lafayette Cafeteria project. Many years ago, there was an underground fuel tank that was removed, but what was unidentified at the time of the project estimate was that there was a large concrete slab remaining buried underground that had to be removed in the section where we're adding new footings. So there is a change order tonight on my agenda to approve the change order from the contractor to remove this unknown large slab so that it could house proper footings for the school. And that concludes the operations update.
Any questions? I think I have a couple questions. First, did I hear something about a grade reconfiguration at one of the schools? I did read at least one of the reports and didn't see that in there, but I mean, it was a pretty dense report, so I may have missed it. What are we discussing? Or was that just a recommendation from someone? I'm not clear on how that works.
It was a recommendation made by the architect and also the demographer. They both came independently to the same conclusion. And you know, if the board would like me to introduce those now, I could.
I'd like to hear, I mean, if you could do it briefly, yeah.
Sure. It's still being considered, but one of the considerations that the 2 gentlemen came up with was to remove 3rd grade from Smalley School to free up classroom space, which will remove about 100 to 150 students. Smalley School is one of our most congested right now, and this would be a non-costly adjustment to moving those students. Lafayette School would then become serving grades 2 and 3, and Lamont Annex would serve K and 1. The report illustrated that the simple grade reconfiguration would balance the student enrollment currently and in the future without costly classroom additions.
I guess my only question there is pre-K. Where do they end up at that point? We still have.
Rooms over.
Okay. Okay, so I'm sure that's something we'll be talking about a lot
Yeah,
more
we're
in the future.
definitely
Right now, I know
something
it's.
we'll be talking about at the next committee, once things become more secure. This is just a recommendation at this point. One of the things that I want to do is I want to have our staff go out and actually make sure that the statistics and the information that was given are accurate by counting classrooms, counting students. This way we can make a recommendation to the board in terms of what we're going to do.
Great. And my other question, I think I know the answer, but we talked about adding vestibules. That's for safety reasons, right? We're going to have that 2-door system.
Yes. Many of our schools, most of them have vestibules, which creates what's called a man trap.
Yep.
To prevent someone entering the school just to be able to have quick access to go wherever they want. They're secured in a location. They have to furnish identification through the lobby guard system, go through a background check, and then they're cleared to conduct their business in the school.
Right, okay. Anyone else? Okay, so that brings us, I believe, to the community engagement with Ms. Vizino.
Yes, mine's gonna be a lot shorter.
Okay.
I was unfortunately not able to attend the last committee meeting, but I had gotten some feedback from members in attendance that it went smoothly. However, we did invite the borough manager to attend, and unfortunately, she was unable to do that. So we're actively looking for who to bring into our meeting next month. We're staying in communication with the Alumni Association. I know they're working on some award programs now, and they do have on task to work with Dr. Freeman on projects like the trophy cases and things once they get somebody delegated on their side to get that up and running. So we'll just keep in contact with them. The PTO is excited to announce designer bag bingo, and the proceeds from that are going to go to junior senior prom. So I'm excited about that. Now that we have the PTO supporting at high school level, I think it's going to be a great event. And I know Danny and Super, if you guys have anything else that you wanted to add.
Well, kind of a side note, the Alumni Association, they were so excited about the scholarship programs.
Yes.
And they just recently got another scholarship, so they're now up to 4.
Yes.
Which is really nice. They're very excited about working together.
Absolutely. And I think we're just going to keep the momentum going with social and how we're reaching out to the community that way. I know Dr. Freeman's doing an amazing job with our Instagram social as well as his own Crusader Superintendent account. So it's exciting to see all of that interaction, and it's exciting to see him in the classrooms and interacting with all of our students. So more great things to see on that. That's all I have.
Okay, I was in the room listening to the PTO meeting, and I would just like to say kudos to you because they were very excited to have you on the call and have us be a part of their organization and partner with them, so.
There's a lot of good energy.
For sure, yeah. Okay, Ms. Hyde, that brings us to you in Somerset County.
I get the last one.
Yes.
So I was able to visit the Somerset County Ed Services Commission. And it really was quite informative. It was, they did a presentation. They had their Start Stronger presentation there. They were talking about, just the makeup of the student body, et cetera. I also attended they had their Teacher of the Year award there the night that I went. They discussed their budget, and it was interesting that they get very little or no tax dollars are allocated to them. So it's all funding and it goes through Somerset County. It's presented to them, they vote, they decide, you know, how to move forward. And the thing that I was really interested in is what was our role as a participant? And our role is, you know, it's a board of directors, it's not a board of education. It's to be there for business and discussions and decision-making. They have meetings every other month. They don't have monthly, it's every other month. And just to promote to the Board of Education what is going on, you know, with them and their services. They have a career center, an integrated program, which was wonderful. It was construction, electrical, and plumbing. And in the last year or so, they brought that all together. They used to have separate, but now they actually build rooms and they have the plumbing and, you know, all the electric, roofing, everything. It's really, it's extensive. It's really interesting. They also have a small engines, but they also work on cars. Teachers bring their cars there for oil changes. I won't bring mine there. You know, automotive, also lawnmowers, you know, all of those engines that need repairing. They also have a small ShopRite set up right there. So they have the aisles just as they are in the ShopRite, you know, in Baton Rouge. They have the prices. There is a truck that comes to a loading dock. The students unload. They put everything, they stock it, they price it. And they entry into a mastered program in that the students who work there, if they then want to go to a ShopRite, they have a certificate that they've actually completed their training. So it just was very interesting. They also have a program called New Dawn, which is for students exhibiting high anxiety, school phobia. It just dealt with a lot of things, suicidal ideations, and it works with the Rutgers behavioral growth program. There's a member on staff there. They have, they have rental options. They have a beautiful new gym. The facilities really, I think it's 6 years old, and 6, maybe 10, yeah. But it's not that old. The gym is beautiful, and they said prior to the pandemic, they were renting it out 5 days a week. And their goal is to have it 24/7. Not sure how that's going to come about, but they wanted us to know that the options were there. They also are very, have a great dealing with transportation in Somerset County. They presently have 306 routes. They work with 44 districts and 55 bus contractors. They monitor the vendors. They add the personnel. They do get a 5% administrative fee, which is what sustains them and keeps them going. They have who coordinate all of this. And they also have a surplus of buses. So if we want to buy a bus, that seems to be the place to go. Again, it was an informative meeting. The people there are very dedicated to their students, very dedicated to their staff. It just was very, very positive.
Okay. Any questions before we close out committee reports? Okay, this time we really are open for agenda items only. No takebacks. I don't think anyone put anything new on there, Tom, but let's check just in case.
Nope.
Okay, and anyone in the room? Seeing no one moving, okay. We will move on to item 5.1, approval of the minutes. Resolved, the Bound Board of Education approves the minutes for the following meetings. Regular and executive meeting minutes of January 18th, 2023. Can I get a motion? Ms. High, and a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay.
Voting on the minutes, Mr. Bell.
Yes.
Mr. Dawson.
Yes.
Mr. Zeno.
Yes.
Ms. Lima.
Yes.
Mr. Minhas.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Mr. Volmer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to personnel resolutions, district. Be resolved. Superintendent recommends for approval the resolutions as outlined in district personnel resolutions, that is 6.2 all the way down to 6.27. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Minhouse, thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gazino. Any questions?
I just want to point out and just say that it's really awesome to be able to see so many people requesting to attend different conferences.
I noticed the same thing this month.
Yeah, and it's really awesome to see that people are taking advantage of it.
Anyone else? Okay, can we have a roll call?
Sir, Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Gazino?
Yes.
Ms. Lima?
Yes, with the exception of the items that are in the past.
Thank you. Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. High? Mr. Ballmer?
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Oh, sure. I've just been told we have a new celebrity in the back. Our new director of ESL and World Language is here, Miss Kleisterman? Heisterman? I'm sorry. Thank you and welcome to the district. Okay, we are on to 7.1. Education resolutions district, be it resolved, the Bound Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in district education resolutions. That would be 7.2 through 7.15. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson, and a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde. Do we have any questions? Any comments? Again, just, yes, same, so many trips and events coming up. Awesome. It's so good to have them back after years without anything. Anyone else? Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Gazino?
Yes.
Ms. Lima?
Yes, with the exception of the items that are in double.
Thank you. Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. High?
Yes.
Mr. Ballmer?
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to item 8.1. Be it resolved, the Bound Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in board action resolutions. That is 8.2 down to 8.27. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Is that Mr. Minhas? Thank you.
Sir.
And a second? Thank you, Ms. High. Comments, questions? Seeing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Gazino?
Yes.
Ms. Lima?
Yes, I don't think there's any.
I don't think there are.
No, there weren't. So yes.
Thank you. Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. High?
Yes.
Mr. Ballmer?
Abstain.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, this brings us to other matters to come before the board and new business. Does anyone have any new business they'd like to bring forth at this time?
Do we want to?
Again?
Yes.
Ms. Casino wants to mention dodgeball again.
I mean, I think we need to build a team, right?
I think we need to build a better team than we had last year, that's for sure.
Board member here that can throw me dodgeball, yes.
Yeah, that reminds me, am I gonna be on this team?
You are invited to be on the team, you are welcome to be on the team, and we would love you to be on the team. There's no pressure here.
No
So
pressure.
how does it work?
It works like we throw a ball at another team and try not to get like that. That's
We offered him next year's first round draft.
When is this tournament?
that I don't know,
March 23rd.
maybe March 23rd, it's at night, hopefully we stay a very long time because we win and stay. Last time we were out quite quickly, so we didn't have to stay long at all. We got to dodge, dip, dive, dodge. Yes, we did none of those things.
Yeah, we could train the dodgeball training.
Oh, I'm sorry, our student representative, you do have a report this month. You can go ahead and give that now then, even better.
Okay, so in the past couple of weeks, I have met with Mr. Schmidt,
concerning multiple topics to improve the school, which include school testing. This includes both the SAT, Linkit, and I think Social. Yeah. We've also drafted a climate survey that will be sent out through the English departments for the students to respond and will hopefully provide valuable data to us. We've also brainstormed methods to improve the attendance rates, and we are hoping to conduct interviews with principals of the other buildings, hopefully sometime during March. And that's it.
Thank you. Sounds like you're off and running. Excellent. Nice job. All right. Anything else to come before the board? Okay, then I think we are open to the public for discussion for anything. Do we have anything online, Tom?
I'll go look one more time. The
While
last
Tom's
time.
looking, anyone in the room? This is your chance.
Nope, nothing online.
Dodgeball. We've really hammered that one home. I think we're good on dodgeball. Okay, then at this time, we are going into executive session. I don't know the number, so I'm gonna have to ask for that, but resolve. Bound Board of Education to enter executive session as allowed by NJSA 10-4-11 for the purpose of. Anybody have numbers for us?
Mr. Gorski?
It's my guess. It usually is. I think
They're putting it together.
they're putting it together now.
1 and 3.
Oh, we're so close.
1 and 3.
For numbers 1 and 3. Okay, can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. And a second?
Second.
Second. I think we just on this one say all in favor, right? We don't. Did we do a roll call on going into executive? I don't think so.
We usually do it.
We do? Okay, then let's roll call.
Either one's fine.
We can roll call it, sure.
Okay, executive session, Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Ms. Casino,
Yes.
Ms. Lima,
Yes.
Ms. Minhas. Yes. Ms. Hines.
Yes.
Mr. Ballmer. Yes. Motion passes.
Okay. We have to move.
You're unmuted.
We were on 12, so that means we're on 13. Okay, we're back to 13.1. Good. Be resolved, Bound Brook Board of Education. The approval of the resolutions as outlined in approval of HIB cases under high school 13.2, 13.3. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson, second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Casino. Any comments? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Ms. Casino,
Yes.
Ms. Lima,
Yes.
Mr. Minhas.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Mr. Volmer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, item 14.1, be resolved by the Board of Education, the approval of the resolutions as outlined in approval of HIB cases under middle and elementary schools, items 14.2 and 14.3. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Casino. Comments? Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Ms. Casino,
Yes.
Ms. Lima,
Abstain.
so noted. Mr. Minhas.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Mr. Volmer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, then what we've all been waiting for. Item 15.1, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Lima. And a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.